6 months ago, I was the most invisible person at Meridian Communications. At 22, I was a junior marketing intern, spending my days photocopying documents, organizing supply closets, and blending into the background of one of Chicago's most prestigious advertising agencies. The gleaming high-rise, with Meridian's logo blazing atop, was a symbol of the success I dreamed of touching. But to me, it felt like a cold labyrinth where I was unseen. I was Catherine Walsh, a communications major still finishing my final semester, sneaking into the office via the stairwell to avoid elevator small talk. Lunch was a solitary affair at my desk, nibbling a cold sandwich while others laughed in the cafeteria. I'd never spoken up in a meeting, not once. I hadn't always been this way. In high school, I was confident, outgoing, even popular, leading the drama club and commanding attention at parties. But college was a string of small failures, mediocre grades, rejections from clubs, and broken friendships that chipped away at my self-esteem. By the time I graduated, I was a shadow of my former self. The internship at Meridian was supposed to be my fresh start, my chance to prove myself in the real world. Instead, it became another place where I felt small and insignificant. The one light guiding me through this invisibility was my little brother, Danny, an 8-year-old born deaf. When doctors delivered his diagnosis, our family felt like it was falling into an abyss. My parents, ordinary office workers in suburban Chicago, struggled to learn American Sign Language, ASL, through free online courses. But their busy lives limited them to basic gestures. I, however, dove in like a storm. I remember that first night, eyes red from staring at YouTube tutorials from experts like those from Gallaudet University, the renowned school for the deaf. I bought ASL for Dummies, joined community classes at Chicago's Deaf Cultural Center, and practiced for hours in front of a mirror, imagining Danny sitting before me. Each new sign, from eat, with a hand brushing the mouth, to love, with thumb touching pinky, made my heart race. It wasn't just learning a language, it was my promise to ensure Danny never felt as isolated as I did. According to the National Association of the Deaf, early ASL learning boosts cognitive development in deaf children by 30%, and I wanted to give that to him. Danny became my motivation, his radiant smile and sparkling eyes lighting up every time I signed bedtime stories. By the time I started at Meridian, I was fluent in ASL, a skill I was truly proud of, but one that felt out of place in the noisy, speech-driven world of advertising. It was like knowing how to play a classical violin in a world obsessed with electric guitars. That Tuesday morning in October, Chicago was wrapped in a crisp autumn breeze, golden leaves drifting outside the Meridian building's windows. The office buzzed like a beehive. We were preparing for a major client pitch, a luxury car brand campaign with a multi-million-dollar budget. Everyone was stressed, rushing, phones ringing off the hook, the air thick with tension. I was stationed at the reception area, organizing presentation materials, printing, stapling, updating PowerPoint slides. My supervisor, Margaret, a sharp middle-aged woman with a tight bun and a voice that could cut glass, had been clear. Catherine, focus on your tasks. Don't get distracted. I nodded, heart pounding, trying to blend into the chaos. Then I saw him, amid the bustling crowd. An elderly man, about 70, stood alone by the reception desk, dressed impeccably in a tailored navy suit. His silver hair was neatly styled, and he carried himself with a quiet dignity that spoke of a lifetime of success. But his deep brown eyes held a mix of frustration and sadness that tugged at my heart. He was trying to communicate with Jessica, our head receptionist, a kind young woman swamped with paperwork and calls. Growing visibly impatient. Sir, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're trying to say. Do you have an appointment? Can you write down who you're here to see? She said. Her voice rushed, hands waving dismissively. The man didn't speak, only gestured subtly, pointing toward the elevators, his mouth moving with words Jessica couldn't hear. Then I saw it, the delicate hand movements, the expressive face, the attempt to fingerspell a name. He was signing ASL. I watched with growing dismay as Jessica turned to another visitor. effectively dismissing him. He stood there, looking lost, distress creeping into his posture. Account executives in pricey suits, creative directors with arms full of presentation boards, and junior associates rushing to meetings passed him by. Not one stopped. Not one noticed this distinguished man needed help. According to the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, over 50% of deaf individuals feel excluded in public spaces. And that moment reminded me of Danny, my brother ignored on playgrounds. Looked through as if his deafness made him invisible. My first instinct was to stay put. I was just an intern. I had tasks to complete. Margaret would have my head if I neglected my duties. But as I saw the man's shoulders slump, defeat seeping into his stance, I thought of Danny, of the nights he cried because no one understood him. My heart raced, sweat beating at my neck. I made a choice that would change my life forever. I walked to the reception desk, legs trembling like autumn leaves. Dreading rejection or reprimand, the man looked up, his weary eyes expecting another brush off. I took a deep breath, smiled warmly, and signed slowly, "Hello. My name is Catherine. Can I help you?" His face transformed instantly, his eyes widened with surprise and relief. A genuine smile breaking through, banishing the cloud of sadness. "You sign," he replied, hands moving with the fluid grace of someone who'd used ASL for decades. Thank goodness. I was starting to think no one here could understand me. I signed back, hands shaking slightly but tone reassuring. "I'm so sorry for the trouble. What can I help you with?" "I'm here to assist," he explained, hands dancing expressively. He was there to see his son but had no formal appointment. I was just in the area, hoping to catch him for a few minutes. He pointed toward the elevators, signing his son's name, Michael Hartwell. My heart nearly stopped. Michael Hartwell, the CEO of Meridian Communications, whose name adorned the building directory, whose corner office spanned the top floor with a view of Chicago's skyline, whose rare appearances sent ripples of nervous energy through the staff. "Mr. Hartwell is your son?" I signed, masking my shock. "Yes," he confirmed, his face flickering with pride and hesitation. "I know he's very busy. But I thought, maybe a quick hello." I saw the vulnerability. A father longing to connect with his son but feeling like a burden in his world. Stories from Deaf Reach highlight how many deaf parents feel excluded from their children's professional lives. And that moment steeled my resolve. Of course, I signed, guiding him to the cozy lobby sofa with a clear view for continued conversation. "Please sit, I'll make some calls." Now, the real challenge began. How does a lowly intern arrange a meeting with the CEO? I called Patricia, Michael's executive assistant, a formidable woman who guarded his schedule like a dragon hoarding treasure. "Mr. Hartwell's office." Patricia speaking, her voice crisp and professional. "Hi, Patricia. This is Catherine Walsh from the intern program. I have a visitor in the lobby who says he's Mr. Hartwell's father and would like to see him if possible." A long pause. "His father?" "Yes, ma'am. An elderly gentleman, very well dressed, waiting in the lobby." Another pause. Longer. "I'll need to check with Mr. Hartwell. Can you have the visitor wait?" "Of course. Thank you." I hung up and returned to the man, Robert. As he introduced himself, signing, "We're working on it. While we wait, tell me about yourself." And so, in the bustling lobby, we conversed in ASL. And I discovered Robert Hartwell was one of the most fascinating people I'd ever met. He shared stories of his career as an architect, designing iconic Chicago skyline buildings, inspired by figures like Olof Hansen, a 19th-century deaf Swedish architect who proved disability didn't limit creative vision. Robert signed about the sweeping lines of his skyscrapers. His late wife, Michael's mother, a teacher at the Illinois School for the Deaf, and the challenges of raising a hearing son as a deaf parent. "He's always been driven." Robert signed, his expression a mix of admiration and concern. Even as a child, Michael wanted to prove himself, to show the world a deaf father didn't hold him back. "I'm proud, but I worry he's forgotten how to slow down. How to just be." His stories, vivid with details of late-night drafting under desk lamps and family picnics by Lake Michigan where ASL flowed like a dance, made time slip away. We drew attention. Employees glanced curiously. Jessica whispered to colleagues about the sign language chat in the lobby. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Patricia called back. Mr. Hartwell is in back-to-back meetings and won't be free for at least an hour. Disappointment flashed in Robert's eyes. Though he hid it well. Perhaps I should come back another time. He signed. I don't want to be a bother. You're not a bother, I assured him, heart aching. Would you like to wait a bit longer? I can show you around the building. We have beautiful artwork upstairs. His face lit up. I'd love that. I've never seen where Michael works. And so began what would later be called the most unauthorized tour in Meridian Communications history. A journey where an intern led the CEO's father through his son's empire. As Robert and I began our impromptu tour of Meridian Communications, the weight of my decision settled over me like a Chicago fog. I was abandoning my assigned tasks, photocopying, organizing, supporting the high-stakes client pitch that had the entire office on edge. Margaret's texts buzzed relentlessly in my pocket, each one sharper than the last. Where are you, Catherine? The slides need updating now. But every time I glanced at Robert, his eyes alight with curiosity and pride as he took in the world his son had built. I couldn't turn back. This wasn't just about a tour. It was about giving a man who'd been overlooked a moment to feel seen. According to the National Deaf Center, human connection through shared communication can reduce feelings of isolation by up to 40% for deaf individuals. And I could see that truth unfolding in Robert's smile. We started in the creative department. A vibrant chaos of color swatches, mock-up boards, and the hum of Adobe software. I introduced Robert to a few graphic designers, signing rapidly to bridge the gap between his world and theirs. This is Robert, an architect and Michael Hartwell's father. I signed, watching their eyes widen at the mention of the CEO's name. Most offered quick, polite nods before diving back into their deadlines. But one designer, a young woman named Lila with a nose ring and a sketchpad, lingered. An architect? That's incredible, she said, and I translated as she showed Robert a campaign layout inspired by Chicago's skyline. Robert's hands danced as he signed about the structural elegance of the John Hancock Center, a building he'd consulted on decades ago. Lila, fascinated, asked questions through me, and for a moment, the frenetic energy of the department paused. Captivated by this unexpected guest, I could feel the eyes of other employees on us, some curious, some annoyed at the distraction. I ignored the knot in my stomach, focusing on Robert's joy. Next, we moved to the account management floor, where glass-walled offices buzzed with strategy sessions. Robert was enthralled by the client relationship boards pinned with data and timelines. I explained how Meridian pitched campaigns to global brands, translating terms like ROI and brand equity into ASL with as much clarity as I could muster. Robert signed back. Michael always loved solving puzzles. This feels like a giant puzzle. His pride was palpable, but so was a quiet longing, as if he were piecing together who his son had become through these glimpses of his empire. We stopped by the break room, where the scent of burnt coffee lingered. Robert shared stories of Chicago's 1970s coffee culture, mentioning spots like the now iconic Intelligentsia, where he'd sketched building designs over black coffee. I laughed as he signed about sneaking decaf to his wife because she'd stay up too late grading papers. These personal anecdotes, woven with details from Chicago's cultural history, made the tour feel like a journey through time, not just a building. Throughout, my phone vibrated with Margaret's escalating messages. Catherine, this is unacceptable. Report to me immediately. My heart sank with each notification. But Robert's enthusiasm kept me anchored. I was breaking every rule, risking my internship. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more important than any stack of photocopies. As we moved through the analytics department, I noticed something, or someone, on the mezzanine above. A tall figure, partially obscured by a pillar, stood watching us. It was Michael Hartwell, the CEO himself. His tailored suit and commanding posture were unmistakable. Even from a distance, he was observing his father, watching me translate conversations, his expression unreadable but intense. My pulse raced. The CEO was witnessing my unauthorized tour while I was supposed to be prepping for the biggest presentation of the quarter. I was done for, fired. Probably. And maybe even getting Robert in trouble for disrupting the workplace. But when I glanced back seconds later, he was gone, like a ghost vanishing into the corporate ether. I took a shaky breath and continued, leading Robert to the conference rooms where Meridian's award-winning campaigns were pitched. Glass walls showcased teams brainstorming, their voices muffled but animated. Robert signed. "This is where Michael makes the big decisions." I nodded, explaining how these rooms hosted clients from Fortune 500 companies. He ran a hand along the sleek table, as if touching his son's success. We visited the company library, a quiet space lined with framed ads and industry awards. Robert studied a campaign for a Chicago-based nonprofit, his fingers tracing the bold typography. My wife would have loved this. He signed, eyes misty. She always believed advertising could tell stories that change lives. I swallowed a lump in my throat, thinking of Danny and how stories, signed or spoken, had become our bond. By the time we reached the executive floor, 2 hours had passed. The polished wood paneling and original artwork screamed prestige. But Robert's focus was personal. He asked about Meridian's decision-making. Signing. How does Michael balance all this responsibility? I translated what I knew from intern gossip. Michael was a visionary. Relentless but fair, driving the company to new heights. Robert nodded, but his expression turned wistful. He was such a curious boy. He signed, always asking questions. After his mother died, he stopped asking me things. I think he felt he had to protect me. Like my deafness made me fragile. My heart ached for them both, a father longing to reconnect. A son carrying the weight of independence. According to a 2023 study by the Journal of Deaf Studies, hearing children of deaf parents often take on caretaker roles, creating emotional distance over time. Robert's story felt like a living case study, and I wanted nothing more than to bridge that gap. As we returned to the lobby, it was nearly 3 p.m. Robert's scheduled meeting time had long passed, and I could see resignation settling in. "Thank you, Catherine," he signed, his hands moving with heartfelt gratitude. "This was wonderful. I feel like I know Michael's world better now. And I loved meeting you. You remind me of my wife, same kind heart. Same way of making people feel valued." I signed back. "It's been my pleasure," and meant every word. Despite the dread of facing Margaret's wrath, the afternoon felt like the most meaningful I'd had at Meridian. But then I saw her, Margaret, striding across the lobby, her face a storm cloud of barely contained anger. "Catherine," she snapped, her voice slicing through the hum of the office. "I need to speak with you now." I turned to Robert to sign an explanation. But before I could, a deep voice cut through. "Actually, Margaret, I need to speak with Miss Walsh first." I spun around to face Michael Hartwell himself. Tall, early 50s, with the same intelligent eyes as his father. He exuded quiet authority, but there was something else in his expression, emotion. Carefully restrained, Margaret stammered, "Mr. Hartwell, I was just about to address Ms. Walsh's absence from her duties today. She was supposed to be helping my father." Michael interrupted softly, his gaze locked on me. "Which, from what I saw, she did beautifully." The lobby seemed to hush around us. Margaret's jaw worked soundlessly. Robert's eyes darted between his son and me, a dawning delight on his face. Michael turned to his father, his voice softening further. "Dad," he said, and began signing, slowly, clumsily, but with clear effort. "I'm sorry I kept you waiting. I didn't know you were here until..." He paused, glancing at me, then continued signing. "Until I saw you with Catherine. I've been watching for the past hour. I haven't seen you this happy in years." Robert's face glowed with joy and surprise. "You've been learning to sign." He signed back. Michael nodded, his hands gaining confidence. "I've been trying. I should have done it years ago. I should have communicated in your language instead of expecting you to adapt to mine." Father and son embraced in the middle of the bustling lobby, and tears pricked my eyes. Around us, the office slowed, employees pausing to witness this unexpected reunion. When they parted, Michael turned to me. "Miss Walsh, can I speak with you in my office?" There are things I'd like to discuss. My heart pounded as I followed him and Robert to the executive elevator. Margaret vanishing into the crowd, likely reeling from the scene. The elevator hummed softly, and I stole glances at Robert, radiant with happiness, and Michael, his expression intense but unreadable. Michael's office was a vision of corporate power. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a breathtaking Chicago skyline view. Elegant furniture worth more than my rent. Walls lined with awards. Yet it felt impersonal, devoid of Michael's essence. "Please sit," he said, gesturing to chairs before his desk. He took the seat beside his father, not behind the desk, a small gesture that made the moment feel intimate. "Miss Walsh," he began, "I owe you an apology and an explanation." I blinked, confused. "An apology, sir? I should be apologizing. I know I neglected my presentation tasks and," he raised a hand. "You did exactly what you should have done. What I wish more of my employees would do." He looked at Robert, his eyes a mix of love and regret. "My father has visited this office 3 times in the 10 years I've been CEO. Each time, he's been treated like an inconvenience, a disruption to our important work. I've watched from a distance as my own staff made him feel unwelcome in his son's workplace." Robert touched Michael's arm, signing something I couldn't catch. Michael nodded and continued, "Today was different. I watched a 22-year-old intern abandon her tasks to spend 3 hours making my father feel valued, respected, included. I saw you translate conversations, facilitate connections, treat him not as a burden but as an honored guest." His voice thickened. "You gave him something I haven't in years, the feeling he belongs in my world." Tears welled in my eyes. "Mr. Hartwell, I have a deaf brother. Danny. I know how it feels when people ignore him. Treat him like he's invisible. I couldn't let that happen to your father." Michael leaned forward. "And that's why I need to talk about your future here." My stomach dropped. This was it, the gentle prelude to termination. "I understand if you need to let me go," I said quietly. "I know I didn't do my assigned work." Michael looked genuinely shocked. "Let you go? Miss Walsh, I want to offer you a job. A real job, not an internship." I stared, certain I'd misheard. "I'm sorry. What?" He smiled faintly. "What I saw today showed me what's missing from this company, a genuine commitment to inclusion. We have diversity policies in our handbook, but we don't live them. I want to change that. And I need your help." Michael Hartwell's words hung in the air like the final note of a symphony, reverberating through the sleek, impersonal expanse of his office. My mind reeled. A job? Not just any job, but a real position, one that could redefine my place in a world where I'd felt so invisible. I glanced at Robert, whose face was alight with a mixture of pride and excitement, his hands signing rapid bursts of encouragement to his son. The Chicago skyline stretched beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, a glittering reminder of the stakes in this moment. I was still a college student, an intern who'd spent the day defying orders. And now the CEO of Meridian Communications was offering me a chance to change his company. My heart pounded, torn between disbelief and a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could be more than the girl who faded into the background. "Mr. Hartwell," I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just an intern. I don't have experience in HR or policymaking. I haven't even finished my degree yet." Michael leaned forward, his eyes steady and intense. The same eyes I'd seen in Robert, now softened with purpose. "Catherine, experience can be learned. What you have, empathy. The ability to see people as individuals rather than obstacles, that's rarer. You have a skill set that could transform how Meridian operates." He paused, glancing at his father, who nodded vigorously, signing, "She's perfect for this." Michael continued, "I'm creating a new role, Director of Accessibility and Inclusion. You'd ensure our company is truly accessible to everyone, employees, clients, visitors. You'd develop training programs, shape policies, and advocate for those who might be overlooked. You'd report directly to me." The words hit like a tidal wave. Director? Report to the CEO? My mind flashed to Danny, to the countless times I'd seen him dismissed or ignored, and to Robert's weary expression in the lobby just hours ago. According to a 2024 report from the National Deaf Center, only 20% of U.S. companies have dedicated accessibility roles. Yet those that do see a 25% increase in employee satisfaction and client retention. The idea that I could build something meaningful, not just for Robert or Danny but for countless others, sent a surge of purpose through me. But doubt lingered. Mr. Hartwell, this is overwhelming. The salary, the benefits, the responsibility, it sounds incredible. But I'm not sure I'm qualified. Michael smiled, a rare warmth breaking through his corporate demeanor. Take the weekend to think about it. But I hope you'll say yes. This company needs someone like you. I need someone like you. Robert's hands moved swiftly, signing to Michael. She's already made a difference today. Then he turned to me, his eyes shining. You've given me a gift, Catherine. Not just this tour, but a chance to feel close to my son again. You remind me of my wife. She saw people. Really saw them. His words wrapped around my heart, squeezing out the fear that had held me back for so long. I nodded, unable to find words, my throat tight with emotion. Michael stood, signaling the meeting's end, and walked us to the elevator. As the doors closed, he looked at me, his voice low but clear. Catherine, thank you for seeing him. For seeing what matters. Robert hugged me, his hands signing. You've given me my son back, and I felt tears threaten to spill. Back in the lobby, the world felt different, like the air itself had shifted. Margaret was nowhere to be seen, likely regrouping after the CEO's intervention. I returned to my desk, the stack of presentation materials untouched, a silent testament to my rebellion. My phone was flooded with missed messages from Margaret, but I couldn't focus. I kept replaying Michael's offer, Robert's gratitude, the embrace between father and son. That night, I called my parents, then video called Danny, trying to explain the surreal day. Danny's face lit up on the screen, his small hands signing rapidly. You're going to help deaf people at work? That's so cool, Kat. You're like a superhero for people like me. His excitement was infectious, and for the first time in months, I felt a spark of the confidence I'd lost in college. By Monday, I knew my answer. I accepted the role, starting the following week as Meridian's first director of accessibility and inclusion. The title felt too big for me, like wearing a coat 3 sizes too large. But I was determined to grow into it. My first task was an accessibility audit of the entire company, building policies, culture. What I found was sobering but galvanizing. Meridian, like many corporations, had good intentions but little practical understanding of inclusion. The lobby lacked visual alert systems for deaf visitors. Meeting rooms had no interpreters. Marketing materials ignored accessibility standards, like alt text for images or captions for videos. According to the World Health Organization, 1.5 billion people globally live with hearing loss. Yet Meridian's infrastructure catered only to the hearing majority. I saw an opportunity, not just to fix systems but to change hearts. I started small but bold. We installed visual fire alarms and doorbells, ensuring deaf employees and visitors could navigate safely. I worked with IT to integrate real-time captioning software for meetings, drawing on tools like Otter.ai, which boosted accessibility by 40% in early trials at other firms. I partnered with the Illinois School for the Deaf to bring in ASL interpreters for company-wide events, their presence transforming meetings into inclusive spaces. My biggest initiative was mandatory inclusion training. Starting with the executive team, I invited speakers from Chicago's deaf community, including Robert, who shared his experiences with raw honesty. Being ignored isn't just about not hearing. He signed to a room of executives, their faces shifting from discomfort to reflection. It's about being made to feel you don't belong. I translated, my hands steady despite the weight of the moment, and saw Michael in the back, nodding, his own signing improving with each session he attended. Margaret, my former supervisor, surprised me by becoming one of my most dedicated students in the lunchtime ASL classes I started. I keep thinking about that day, she admitted after a session, her hands fumbling through the sign for sorry. I was so focused on the pitch, I missed what was right in front of me. I don't want to make that mistake again. Her sincerity disarmed me, And I realized change was possible, even among those I'd feared would resist. Employees began signing basic phrases: hello, thank you, good morning, creating a ripple effect. The break room, once a place of cliques, became a hub for practicing ASL, with junior associates quizzing each other over coffee. According to a 2025 study by the Society for Human Resource Management, inclusive workplaces see a 30% boost in morale. And I could feel it in the air. Meridian was waking up. But the changes went beyond the deaf community. I expanded our focus to mobility accommodations, installing ramps and automatic doors for wheelchair users. We added braille signage and partnered with local organizations like Access Living to ensure our hiring practices welcomed people with disabilities. Our website, previously a visual maze, was redesigned with WCAG 2.1 guidelines, making it navigable for screen readers. Each step felt like a victory. But the real triumph was cultural. Employees who once rushed past each other in the lobby now paused to check in, to listen, to sign. The company that had prioritized efficiency over empathy began to see inclusion as a strength, not a checkbox. I kept Danny in mind through it all, picturing his smile as I worked to build a world where he'd never feel invisible. One afternoon, as I reviewed new accessibility guidelines, Michael called me to his office. "Catherine, you've done more in 3 months than I expected in a year," he said, his signing now fluid enough to hold a full conversation. "My father visits every Friday now. We have lunch, and he's teaching me signs his wife, my mother, used to use. I owe that to you." I blushed, deflecting. "I just did what felt right." He shook his head. "You did what most wouldn't. You saw what matters." As I left his office, I caught sight of Robert in the lobby, signing animatedly with a junior designer. The sight filled me with warmth, but also a new challenge: how to sustain this change, to make it not just a moment but a legacy. As the months unfolded at Meridian Communications, the seeds of change I'd planted began to bloom in ways that surprised even me. What started as a simple act of kindness in the lobby had rippled outward, transforming not just policies but the very soul of the company. By my 4th month in the role, the accessibility audit's findings had evolved into a full-scale overhaul. We weren't just ticking boxes, we were rewriting the narrative of what a truly inclusive workplace could look like. According to a recent Gallup report from 2025, companies with strong inclusion practices see a 21% increase in profitability. And I could feel Meridian inching toward that statistic with every new initiative. But the numbers paled in comparison to the human stories emerging: employees opening up about hidden disabilities, clients praising our accessible campaigns, and visitors like Robert feeling genuinely welcomed. One of the most profound shifts came in our marketing materials. I led a team to redesign our digital assets, ensuring every video had closed captions, every image had descriptive alt text, and every PDF was screen reader friendly. We adopted tools like Adobe Acrobat's Accessibility Checker and partnered with experts from the American Foundation for the Blind to refine our processes. A major client, a tech firm launching an app for hearing aids, noticed immediately. During a pitch, their CEO remarked, "Your materials aren't just compliant, they're thoughtful. It shows you care about users like us." That feedback led to a contract extension worth millions, proving that inclusion wasn't a cost but an investment. I shared the win in a company-wide meeting, signing as I spoke, with interpreters amplifying my message. Michael, presiding from the front, signed, "Well done," with a nod of approval, his fluency in ASL now a point of pride. Robert's involvement grew too, becoming a regular fixture at Meridian. Every Friday, he and Michael shared lunch in the executive suite, their conversations flowing in a blend of spoken words and signs. I often joined them, translating when needed but mostly watching the bond strengthen. Robert shared more about his life, like how he'd overcome discrimination in the architecture field during the 1980s, drawing inspiration from the Americans with Disabilities Act's passage in 1990. His stories inspired a Lunch and Learn Series 1 launched, where employees heard from diverse voices in Chicago's disability community. One session featured a panel from the Chicago Hearing Society, discussing advancements in cochlear implants and the cultural importance of ASL. Attendance soared, with over 70% of staff participating, far exceeding my expectations. Margaret, once my stern supervisor, moderated a session, her signing improving weekly. Catherine, you've turned this place upside down, in the best way, she confided, her earlier anger replaced by genuine respect. But change wasn't without resistance. Some veteran employees grumbled about the extra work of learning ASL or adapting workflows. In one tense meeting, a senior account executive argued, "We're an ad agency, not a social services center. This slows us down." I felt my old insecurities bubble up, the shy intern who avoided conflict, but I pushed through. Signing and speaking firmly, inclusion doesn't slow us, exclusion does. Think of the markets we're missing, the talent we're overlooking. I backed it with data from McKinsey's 2024 diversity report, showing inclusive teams are 35% more innovative. Michael backed me up, his presence quelling the dissent. Afterward, he pulled me aside. "You handled that like a leader. My father was right about you." Those words fueled me, reminding me of Danny's superhero comment. Danny's visits became highlights, turning the office into a playground of signs. At 8, he was a bundle of energy, racing through the lobby to high-five employees who'd learned basic ASL just for him. One afternoon, he joined an ASL class, teaching the group signs for his favorite animals: elephant with a trunk gesture, lion with a roaring face. Laughter filled the room as executives fumbled. But Danny's patience mirrored mine with Robert that fateful day. "You're doing great," he signed, beaming. Watching him interact confidently erased the pain of his past isolations. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, deaf children in inclusive environments show 40% higher social skills. And Danny was living proof. He even inspired a children's outreach program, where Meridian sponsored ASL story hours at local libraries, partnering with organizations like Hands and Voices. As we approached the 6-month mark, the cultural shift was undeniable. The lobby, once a hurried thoroughfare, now featured interactive kiosks with ASL tutorials and braille maps. Employees formed an inclusion committee, volunteering for audits and events. We hosted Meridian's first accessibility fair, inviting vendors for adaptive tech demos, voice-to-text apps, haptic feedback devices, even VR simulations of hearing loss. Over 200 attendees, including clients and community leaders, networked amid booths. Robert manned one, showcasing architectural models accessible to the blind through tactile designs. Michael gave the keynote, signing portions himself. 6 months ago, I watched an intern change my Father's Day, and my company's future. He said, his voice steady. "Inclusion isn't charity, it's smart business. It's human." Applause erupted, signed and clapped, a symphony of unity. Yet, amid the progress, personal growth hit me hardest. I was no longer the girl who hid in stairwells. I spoke up in meetings, led trainings, even negotiated with vendors. My final college semester wrapped up online. My thesis on inclusive communication earning top marks. Friends from high school reached out, amazed at my transformation. "You're glowing, Kat," one said. But the real glow came from mending family ties. My parents, initially skeptical of my bold move, now bragged about our director daughter. Danny's school reported his confidence soaring, crediting our home ASL immersion. One evening, as Chicago's lights twinkled outside my new office, modest but mine, I reflected on the journey. The unauthorized tour, the CEO's offer, the sweeping changes, all stemmed from seeing Robert's humanity. A Harvard Business Review article from 2025 emphasized that empathetic leadership boosts retention by 50%, and Meridian's turnover had dropped noticeably. But for me, it was deeper. I'd found my voice by amplifying others. As I packed up, my phone buzzed. A text from Michael, "Dad's coming tomorrow. Join us?" I smiled, signing a quick video reply. Wouldn't miss it. The next day brought another milestone. Meridian was nominated for a National Workplace Inclusion Award by the U.S. Department of Labor. Citing our rapid transformation, the news spread like wildfire. emails flooding in with congratulations. In the lobby, employees gathered, signing, "Great job," as I passed. Margaret pulled me into a hug, awkward but sincere. "I was wrong about you that day. You saw what I missed." Her words healed old wounds, affirming my path. As the ceremony approached, Michael asked me to accept the award. "This is your vision, Catherine." Nerves fluttered, but excitement won. The event, held in a grand Chicago ballroom, buzzed with industry leaders, dressed in a sharp suit. I stepped to the podium, an ASL interpreter beside me. "This award belongs to everyone at Meridian who embraced change," I said, signing fluidly, "but mostly to a wise man who taught me that the greatest business skill isn't closing deals or managing budgets. It's seeing the humanity in every encounter." In the audience, Robert beamed, signing applause wildly. Beside him, Michael smiled, their Friday lunches now a cherished ritual, their conversations delving into business strategies and family memories. All in ASL. Walking off stage, award in hand, I felt the weight of transformation. The shy intern had become an advocate, a leader, a bridge builder, and it all started with a signed "hello" to a lonely man in a busy lobby. 6 months after that transformative Tuesday, Meridian Communications stood as a beacon of inclusion. Its evolution a testament to the power of one small act rippling into profound change. The National Workplace Inclusion Award ceremony marked a pinnacle. But for me, Catherine Walsh, it was more than recognition, it was validation of a journey from invisibility to impact. As I descended the stage, award clutched tightly, the applause, both clapped and signed, echoed through the ballroom. Industry leaders approached, shaking hands and signing compliments, their faces alight with curiosity about Meridian's turnaround. Michael and Robert waited at our table, Michael rising to embrace me. "You earned this," he signed fluidly, his progress in ASL a symbol of his own growth. Robert added, signing with tears in his eyes, "You've changed more than a company, you've mended hearts." In that moment, surrounded by flashing cameras and congratulatory toasts, I reflected on how far we'd come, the challenges overcome, and the lives touched. Back at the office the next week, the award sat proudly in the lobby, a gleaming plaque inscribed with Meridian's name. Employees paused to admire it, signing "congratulations" as they passed. The cultural shift was embedded now. ASL greetings were commonplace. Visual alerts blinked during announcements, and inclusive design was a standard in every campaign. We expanded partnerships, collaborating with organizations like the National Association of the Deaf to host workshops, drawing participants from across Chicago. One such event featured a panel on deaf culture in media, where I shared my story alongside Robert. Attendees, including aspiring marketers with disabilities, approached afterward, inspired. "You're proof that empathy wins," one young woman signed, her eyes shining. According to a 2025 Deloitte report, inclusive companies attract 30% more diverse talent, and our recruitment numbers reflected that. Applications from disabled candidates surged, leading to hires that enriched our teams. Yet, the most heartfelt changes were personal. Danny's regular visits had turned him into Meridian's unofficial mascot. Employees learned signs for his favorite games, like soccer, with a kicking motion, or superhero, with a cape flourish. During one visit, he led a mini ASL lesson for the creative team, giggling as they mimicked animal signs. "You're all lions," he signed, roaring dramatically. Watching him thrive, confident and connected, healed parts of me I'd long ignored. My parents, once worried about my risky decision, now visited too, marveling at the transformed lobby. "We always knew you had this in you," Mom signed haltingly, her efforts touching me deeply. Even my college friends, reconnected through social media buzz about the award, cheered my success. "From shy intern to award winner? Iconic," one texted. Michael's relationship with Robert deepened immeasurably. Their Friday lunches evolved into strategy sessions, where Robert offered architectural insights on office redesigns for better accessibility, wider aisles, tactile flooring, even art installations with braille descriptions. Michael's signing was now expert level, allowing vulnerable conversations about his mother's death and the guilt he'd carried. I thought protecting you meant distancing myself, Michael admitted one afternoon, as I translated a lingering phrase. Robert signed back. You don't protect by hiding, you connect by sharing. Their bond inspired a company-wide, Family Inclusion Day, where employees invited loved ones for tours and workshops. Danny beamed as he showed off my office. Signing to everyone, my sister's the boss. Challenges persisted, of course. Budget constraints threatened some initiatives, like expanding interpreter services. In a heated board meeting, I advocated fiercely, presenting data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showing that accessible workplaces reduce turnover costs by 25%. This isn't optional, it's essential, I argued, my voice steady, no trace of the old hesitation. Michael supported me, and we secured funding, proving once again that inclusion drove results. Externally, we faced skepticism from competitors, but our awards silenced doubters, leading to consulting requests. Meridian began advising other agencies on accessibility, turning our story into a blueprint. A Forbes article in 2025 highlighted us, quoting me, "Change starts with seeing the overlooked." The publicity boosted our client base, with brands seeking our inclusive expertise. As autumn returned to Chicago, leaves golden once more, I stood in the lobby where it all began. The space hummed with activity, but now with warmth, employees signing across desks. Visitors greeted inclusively. Jessica, the receptionist, had mastered basic ASL, ensuring no one felt dismissed. Margaret, now a close ally, organized inclusion metrics reports, her transformation complete. Reflecting on that Tuesday, I realized the true power lay in vulnerability. Robert's quiet frustration. My decision to step forward. Michael's hidden regret. It echoed research from the Journal of Applied Psychology, where acts of kindness in workplaces foster 50% higher collaboration. Meridian embodied that. Our efficiency enhanced by empathy. Danny's words rang true. I become a superhero. Not with a cape, but with signs and advocacy. Fighting for a world where everyone belongs. Where deafness or difference isn't a barrier but a strength. The best part? It started with a simple signed, "Hello," to a frustrated man. Small gestures create big waves. Noticing the overlooked changes everything. If you're inspired by Catherine's story, ask yourself, when was the last time you stopped to truly see someone? Share in the comments. What act of kindness changed your life? Hit like if this moved you. Subscribe for more tales of compassion's power. And ring the bell for notifications. Thanks for joining this journey. Until next time. Keep seeing the humanity around you. This is an absolutely beautiful story about how a simple act of inclusion can transform lives and entire organizations. What do you think of Catherine's decision to abandon her assigned tasks to help Robert? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you were inspired by this incredible story of compassion and change, please show your support by hitting that like button and be sure to subscribe for more uplifting stories that celebrate the power of human kindness. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next.